All right, what's up? Welcome back, Mateo. How you doing? How you doing? So, Monerotopia, we're talking about Monerotopia today. Got back last week, and it was really freaking awesome. and we're gonna talk more about that. I was just settling into my routine when I got the ding, I got the cha-ching in my Monero tip wallet, and Fiat Demai, shout out to you. You're a good buddy of the Monero community. I see a lot of your posts online. Go follow him on Twitter. But you said looking forward to hearing about your experience at the Monerotopia Conference. So that is coming. And Paul W. said, nice work. Atheist Chat says, atheism is king, sir. And he's trolling me because he knows I am a Christian. I got to read the super chats as they come. Whatever you send will be read on the show at some point. I know I don't, put out content as frequently, but we're talking about Monerotopia today. That's the main point of this. And I met so many of you guys. It's really crazy. Just how many people I guess have tuned into the channel over the last 3 years, and it really kind of goes to show there's a dearth of this kind of content out there. People talking about Monero and private cryptos because, evidently, I'm not the most sophisticated person in this space by a long shot. But I do get out here and I do make videos every now and then that I guess keep the morale up, that there are people who care about privacy in crypto and people who care about the original crypto ethos, which is, creating private, sovereign, fungible money, which works, which is digital. And as far as I'm concerned, Monero is the best form of currency there is on the planet. And it's good to see that there are many people out there who feel the same way. But when I talk to you guys, honestly, it's kind of crazy because I feel like the kindergartner in the room. I mean, you guys are so smart, you guys are so technically proficient, and I learned a tremendous amount during this conference. And I brought my notepad, and I was willing to take the heat looking like a Fed with my notepad and my fastidious writing at every presentation I can make it to. So I learned a lot, and I am glad that people were willing to entertain me in my questions, as simple as they may have seemed, because you guys know I'm not the technical person when it comes to Monero. I'm just a cheerleader out here trying to get people interested in this stuff and explain it in a way that normal people understand, which I feel like is something that is missing from a lot of crypto in the world out there. I talk to people like every day, still to this day, and they're like, "Oh, you're into crypto? Tell me about that." It's like weird computer money, right? And it's like you got to go into the whole freaking rabbit hole with them. You got to explain to them like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Those are not the coins you want to get into. They're not private. They're slow. There's this whole civil war thing that happened in 2017, and the Bitcoin bros have not made it easy for us to explain the use case of this because most people know this as digital gold and a store of value, but most of us in our community here, we see the value in it being a medium of exchange first before it's a store of value. And Monero, of course, as I said before, is the best medium of exchange there is. And, it's a shame. I've been reading Roger Ver's Hijacking Bitcoin book, and it really is fascinating. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Really, really informative stuff, and it's a narrative you don't see often as to how Bitcoin was kind of sabotaged in order for it to stay um, at that 1 megabyte block size and to keep it something that ultimately cannot scale to be a currency in the original sense that it was meant to be. And so this has caused so many problems, and it's caused this whole psyop to happen where, now we're talking about digital gold and we're comparing crypto to gold rather than crypto to fiat. And it's caused Bitcoin and it's caused the crypto world to kind of get a little bit behind in regards to the race to become the best form of cash and the best form of currency, because you have Zelle, you have all of these new technologies coming on the fiat side, which make it relatively easy to anyways, I don't want to go down this whole rabbit hole. You guys know me. You guys were at the conference. If you got the chance to talk to me, I can definitely go on my tangents. But um, anyways, Monero's the best money out there. This conference was the best conference out there. The people there were the best people out there. Fantastic stuff. So let's get into it. I'm going to go through my notes a little bit. I'm just going to keep this screen the way it is. And by the way, if you do want a tip, you can go to Monero CPA. Monero Mateo was taken. I tried to get Monero Mateo. I got screwed up in my setup of my account, so I just kind of went with Monero CPA. So if you want to leave a tip, there's the link down under. I'll read your thing on the next video, whenever that is. So let's get to the notes. So there was a lot of talk at Monerotopia about Mexico City and Mexico as a nation, because as you know, it's in Mexico, the conference. And my experience in Mexico is that it's a very unregulated place. When I'm in a city or when I'm in America, things are a little bit more orderly, and kids with lemonade stands get cracked down on. But in Mexico, there's a whole other ethos out there, and there is a business every step that I walk, and there is a kind of free market, unregulated atmosphere in Mexico, which is really nice. And even the police in Mexico are endeavoring entrepreneurs and chase after foreigners who are putting stickers up in order to take them down and get some. So you gotta love the energy. You gotta love the energy of the Mexican people. They're very enterprising, and apparently, there is an ability to operate privately in a digital way easier than you can in Europe and in the United States. That was kind of the general consensus. um, there are prepaid SIM cards that I guess a lot of people use in Mexico. So you can easily access the internet without verification, which is pretty sweet. That's something I haven't considered. When I was in Mexico, just as a side thing, there was not a lot of fast food restaurants. There was not a lot of big corporations hanging around like you do see in every other city. When you're in a lot of these major cities in America and Europe, you see the same corporations everywhere. But when I was in Mexico City, I did not see that. Every business that I saw was run by a local person, which is very nice, you know? So you have a lot of opportunity there to spread Monero and to spread private crypto, because you got individuals running these things, and they're looking for an opportunity whenever they can find one. If you can cut down on the credit card fees, if you can cut down on the need to use these banks, centralized exchanges, anyone who takes fees out of your pocket and makes things not easy, which Monero makes very easy, although the point of sale thing we got to work on. I've heard some people talk about the 10 megabyte, or excuse me, the 10 minute block time that it takes for your UTXOs to get unlocked. That is kind of an issue. But the trick to that is just to have different unspent UTXOs, maybe different wallets, just so that if you spend out of one, you can spend out of the other when you need it. But that's another thing. We've talked about that. But um, there are just so many businesses out there that could be able to adopt this stuff. Um, mm, mm, mm. Apparently, the landscapes in Mexico are such that the weather makes the infrastructure and internet telecom unreliable. I didn't know that, did you? And so, therefore, operating independently and anonymously is easier in Mexico and more possible. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So, if you're interested in being a private digital nomad, or if you're looking to adopt private crypto, I guess Mexico is one of the places, and increasingly Argentina. And there is like this Monero town, which is kind of like, well, I don't even know if I'm allowed to get into that. I'm not going to, without the permission of the people who are in the know about that. But yeah, so Argentina, Mexico, South America, that looks to be an increasingly popular uh, private crypto hub. So that's going to be interesting. And I got word recently that somebody, well, I know who he is, Aaron Day. He's trying to build a private gold-backed stablecoin on Zano. And I'm curious how that's going to happen here in the States and Western Europe, but I feel like you can do a trial run in South America somewhere, like El Salvador, Argentina, or Mexico. I feel like those would be the places to kind of test out the idea for the private stablecoin. He's thinking about having like private ATMs, or not ATMs, and you have gold that are in the ATMs, or gold backs rather, and each gold back has like some kind of serial number which is linked to a particular Zano back token, and you have all these tokens trading all over the place, and you can go redeem those tokens at one of these ATMs which have these gold backs. You put in like the serial number or whatever. I don't know how it works. He's working on it. Okay, so I feel like South America would be one of those places to kind of test case that. And if you have other crypto ideas that are kind of novel and probably would be not, um, you know, accepted easily by the regulatory regimes in the West, South America seems to be the place to go and experiment. So that's kind of one of the main things that I got with one of those early presentations. And um, shouts out to that guy who probably wants to remain anonymous. I would think anyway. Um, okay, so the next presentation I went to, I should have typed all this up, but it doesn't matter, whatever. The full team membership proof plus plus. This was a presentation by Luke Parker. So let's talk a little bit about this because I haven't really gotten to the deets on my channel about this. But this is going to be a big deal, and apparently we just have to wait uh, what sounds like a few more months for this to be live on Monero. And I learned so much about this. I don't even know where to start. So a lot of it's kind of technical, and I don't want to get into that. But essentially, it removes the statistical analysis that is currently possible with ring signatures. Now, timing analysis is a different thing, and if you want to get more analysis on the timing analysis problem, I would check out Zanu's channel called Anti Moonboy because he's been putting out good content on that. When you use, um, a swapping service, they hold on to the time logs of the transactions taking place, and that's how law enforcement can sometimes crack, who's getting into Monero and where they're getting out, and go check out his channel. He's got more analysis on that. But this full chain membership proof upgrade, um, it pretty much gets rid of the statistical analysis with the decoy selection system that is currently in place with ring signatures because it's 1 out of 16. But when it comes to full chain membership proofs, you're going to like 100 million, okay? Because pretty much every single output on the blockchain is going to be a decoy, effectively, when it comes to your transaction when this happens. It also enables outgoing view keys. Now, one thing that's interesting about this, and just to kind of explain, so like with Monero right now, you can have kind of auditable wallets, and you've got a view key with that wallet that you can share with everybody else, and essentially they can see the transactions where Monero is getting sent into that wallet. However, you can't see the Monero going out of that wallet. Um, it's one of these weird things with the current protocol the way it is. But with full chain membership proofs, you can see the money going in, you can see the money going out. So if somebody wants to have a charity, if somebody wants to have a fundraiser or something like that, where it's kind of a public type thing, then they can have an auditable wallet with full chain membership proofs, and people can see the money going in, the money going out. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting to consider is is this going to be seen favorably by the regulators? Because if you can have the true option to have privacy by default and transparency by choice, and you can opt into transparency using these auditable wallets, okay, well, is that then going to be seen as positive by regulators and exchanges who have been delisting Monero and things like that? So that's something to consider. I'm not saying it would be good one way or another in regards to the regulatory issue. People have arguments about that. Like some people think that it's better that the exchanges don't have Monero because you enable true price discovery because there is the thought that they're doing fractional reserve on these exchanges, and there's some funny shenanigans going on with them trying to suppress the price. We've talked about that here on the channel. But there's also the possibility that you expand the user base if you allow this crypto to be bought and sold on these exchanges. And if you have auditable wallets, then maybe that's something that could happen. But, I don't know. Um, there are two sides of that argument. but maybe outgoing view keys would help this be seen more favorably by the regulators. And there's already legal opinions out there saying that Monero is perfectly compliant with the current regulations as per the Perkins Coie law firm, but they're going to do whatever they're going to do. If they don't want Monero, they're not going to get it. So if we want Monero, we're going to get it. We'll find a way to get it. The market always finds a solution. And I'll get to Havana here in a little bit. That was a really interesting presentation. But full chain membership proofs also makes transactions from the point of the upgrade uh, quantum resistant. Okay, and I had a few questions about that because there was a follow-up presentation by another fella, and again, I don't know if he wants to remain private or not. I don't think Jeff Rose is his real name, but that's the guy. He's working on something else called Carrot, and he's got other upgrades coming on top of full chain membership proofs that'll make it more quantum resistant. And I'll get into that here in a sec. I think I've got notes on that, although I think I checked out maybe 5 minutes in because it was like way over my head. But um, let's see. Mm-mm. So some people ask, well, once the implementation happens, okay, am I going to be able to spend old output privately? And based on my notes here and what I think Luke said, yes, you will be able to spend the old outputs privately. It enables scaling possibilities. So that was kind of a buzz with full chain membership proofs. Some people are saying that you're going to be able to have L2 more easily, a kind of lightning network on top of the base layer of Monero. And the lightning network, or a lightning network, could actually work better on Monero than it can on Bitcoin because Monero itself is more scalable than Bitcoin. And the lack of scalability on Bitcoin is actually something that makes Lightning Network very difficult to use because you've got to open channels, close channels, and all that kind of stuff. And if you can set that up on Monero where people pay a cent to open and close a channel, hey, that's something that could really work. And as of now, with the volume that we have, it's not something that's in too high demand, a layer two, because transactions are still like a penny, and you have the dynamic block size, which kicks in once you have a certain threshold of transactions. But should that be needed at some point down the line, full chain membership proofs helps make that happen. No trusted setup required. Existing addresses can continue to be used, so you don't have to update your address or get a new wallet with full chain membership proofs. The Carrot implementation by this Jeffro fella maximizes the FCMP and wallet. And then they gave an update on Sarai, which is this decentralized exchange that they're working on. Apparently, there's going to be like a SRI coin, which is linked with Sarai, and this is to help liquidity or something like that. Go check out the website, or go check out his presentation on Monerotopia. Um, the YouTube channel, I think, is going to be where it's posted. I'm not sure what the date release on that is, but yeah, so they're going to have their own coins so that there's liquidity. So that's something cool. All right, next, what else I got? No one's P2P marketplaces. So yeah, I met this cool guy named Ray Yusuf. Um, cool guy from Monerotopia, jacked, big, ready to rock and roll. But he has a decent a peer-to-peer marketplace called No One. Go follow him on Twitter. He's got more information about it. But he's trying to build a marketplace infrastructure for crypto in the global south. He has accepted Monero, he's accepted Zano, and he's getting more into the privacy sphere. Because I guess he's getting shunned by the Bitcoin bros. Go figure. So Monero is the evolution of Bitcoin, according to him. Kind of cool. He's in the business of rebooting civilization. Uh, he says something interesting. He says we're overbanked. He says, we're not trying to bank people. We're actually trying to unbank people. We're trying to make people their own banks. And Bitcoin, of course, is going in a different direction. The banks, the crypto banks, are the scaling solution for Bitcoin, unfortunately. And we'll get to Arctic Mind here in a second because I made some good notes on his presentation. Because he notoriously is in Monero for the scaling. It's not even the privacy; it's the scaling. And We don't need Monero banks, that's for sure, for people to have self custody of their funds and to be able to spend it. We anticipate transaction costs for being low. So, apparently in Africa, it's hard to send money from one state to the next easily. Um, and so that's where crypto comes in. He says Africa is the most regulated region in the world. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I'd have to double check that, but that was an interesting comment because you think of Africa as if it's just like kind of the jungle. You got people just running around everywhere. But that's my European perspective, I guess. But apparently, it's the most regulated in the world. Now, I don't know how well they enforce those regulations necessarily. I mean, you got this one country called Eritrea, which actually has citizenship-based taxation, just like the United States does, which is totally insane. It's like the only other country in the world that is like this. Although you do have more countries in the world, like France, who are seemingly getting onto citizenship-based taxation, or they're considering it. But Eritrea doesn't enforce citizenship-based taxation if you're like a bro in Iceland from Eritrea doing commerce. Are there any Eritreans in Iceland? Probably not. But anyways, um, the higher the or the higher the monkey climbs the tree, the more people can see its butt. Like one of the main quotes I took away from his presentation. So he's saying, "Hey, we need more monkeys on the tree. We need more people getting after it to get out there publicly and talk about Monero." Da, 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 da. Okay, cool. So that's that one. I took a few notes on Aaron Fickert's presentation. Aaron Fickert is like the PhD or PhD audit guy. He's the guy who audits privacy chain codes with his group. CipherStack, I believe is the name of it. He's done audits for Zano, for Haven, for Monero. Um, pretty reputable guy, pretty smart guy. And a lot of his presentation was kind of over my head. But um, uh, yeah, I won't even talk about it. I took some notes, but uh, with my lack of ability to explain these things, it's not going to mean anything. Aaron Day, that was the next one I watched. Shouts out to Aaron Day. I shook his hand at the conference. Seemed like a pretty genuine and good fella. He is one person I want to have on the channel at some point, so look out for that. Probably in the next couple of years with my rate of production. But he talked about the coming CBDC, and one thing that I didn't know was they already have programmable money to a certain extent, according to him. So HSA and FSA cards. So HSA is a health savings account. FSA is a flexible spending account. These are things that you can get from like your corporate company. Basically, you get like a deduction or pre-tax money that goes onto these things, and then I guess you're limited as to where you can spend the money, which makes sense because you can only spend it on qualified stuff in order to make sure that you get the qualified tax break for it. But um, essentially, they can already program who you can or can't spend money with. They already have the software for that. He's saying that could be easily integrated into CBDCs. He talked about energy credit based systems. We talked about something like 3 years ago on the channel, the Deconomy MasterCard that they've been planning on coming out with, and that's still probably in the works, and will probably be in the works for another 5 or 10 years, given the rate of motion that we're seeing. But essentially, what they want to do is they want to price everything in the form of carbon, and if you exhibit or emit too much carbon, then essentially they want to cut off your economic activity. So instead of you having money, you have carbon credits, and if you use too much of your carbon credits, then you're essentially cut off from the economy. And they're going to integrate that in the CBDCs, according to Aaron Day. Um, MIT is funding CBDC developments and pilots. Apparently, that is going on, according to Aaron Day. Um, let's see. Yeah, he talked about Zano. He talked about Cake Wallet. The revolution will be tokenized. Good stuff. Okay, now Arctic Mine. I'm going to get to this real quick, and then I'll talk about some of the other conversations that I had with some of you at the conference. Because I really talked to a lot of interesting people, which was really a lot of fun. I took like a tour workshop too. I'm not a tour person, I use my VPN. I'm at the VPN level, but Tor is cool, and I guess Brave is integrating Tor into their browser, if I'm not mistaken. So it's gonna make it easier for people like me. Arctic Mine. Let's talk about Arctic Mine. Um, so he says he started out his presentation with a controversial statement relative to, what we here in the privacy space colloquially believe, which is that Bitcoin actually has privacy, but to a certain degree. And if you actually read the white paper, there are ways to opt in to Bitcoin privacy um, by using a new key pair for every transaction. Okay, so you can read the white paper and you can see that he went through that. Um, and Monero's real update, according to him, is that we automatically force the opt-in, where you use a new key pair for every transaction. Okay. Um, and he went through some of the basics of like the public keys and the private keys. Section 10, if you want to read that in the Bitcoin white paper, talks about anonymous public keys, opt-in unlinkable transactions. Um, he talked about clusters because chain analysis is something which has been in the news a lot recently because they're using chain analysis to go after Roger Ver and free Roger Ver. If you haven't signed the petition for Roger Ver, go do that as soon as you possibly can. I'll leave a link in my description so you can put a signature on the petition to free him, even though we don't really know what the end result is of this case is going to be because the case is so shoddy. I've read the case, and it's hard for me to imagine they would even put him in jail for a year for whatever it is they think he did, much less 109 years, which is really quite nuts. But I think they're trying to use his case as a precedent to go after people and to use chain analytics as a veritable tool in order to arrest people for certain activity on the blockchain and essentially go back forever. Because as we've said for years, anything you do on a public blockchain can and will be used against you, and it's forever. So if you do something that was maybe legal 10 years ago, um, then I guess they can go after you. They're on the blockchain, and if they've got enough of an analysis using quote unquote clusters, which, as Arctic Mind says, is at best an approximation, then you're cooked. Doesn't even matter if you're a U.S. citizen, apparently. So, really scary precedent. I go check out putting a signature on the petition. But he talks about the shoddiness of the chain analytical technologies that are out there right now. Really shoddy stuff, and the fact that they're starting to use this in court cases in order to arrest, as far as I'm concerned, innocent people like Roman Sterlingov as well. We had a couple lawyers at Monerotopia talk about that case. He was just sentenced to 12 and a half years in jail. If you don't know about that case, basically it's the Bitcoin fog case. It's this guy who was accused of running a Bitcoin mixer something like 10 years ago as well, and they did some shoddy chain analytics. And go check out the presentation. I would encourage everyone to go actually check out that presentation because a lot of the stuff that they were saying about what happened with that case was mind blowing. It's just like, okay, like totally conspiratorial. It seems they really want to set a precedent with this technology, and they just locked up this innocent 30-something-year-old guy because he's running some Bitcoin mixer, which, as far as anyone was concerned, wasn't even illegal back then. There was no law regarding Bitcoin in much of any kind of way. Again, it's the retroactive application of law for things that can be evidently, quote unquote, proven because of the immutable, transparent blockchain. They said something very interesting during the presentation. They said, if you can avoid using a transparent public blockchain, avoid it at all costs. I wouldn't use it at all. And that's what I've told you guys for a long time. I don't want to use transparent public ledgers. I don't have Bitcoin. I don't have Bitcoin Cash. I don't have any of these transparent by default cryptocurrencies. I will not use them because of stuff like this. Um, so Arctic Mind said something else that was pretty interesting. Um, he related scalability with privacy. And he said that um, you actually have a bigger, and I hope I'm saying this right. Let me read this real quick. I don't want to misquote Arctic Mind. But Ethereum is more private than Bitcoin. That's what I put here in my notes. I believe that's what he said. Um, Even though Ethereum uses an account model where it's conventionally easier to track because of the volume of the transactions that take place on Ethereum relative to Bitcoin, because you don't have a lot of base layer transactions taking place on Bitcoin relative to Ethereum because of the scaling problem with Bitcoin. Because of that, he says Ethereum is actually more private than Bitcoin. Pretty wild statement, right? Because the anonymity set goes up and all that. And that's why he says Monero is the most private cryptocurrency that's out there, because we already have the privacy tech, but it's also the most widely adopted private cryptocurrency out there. And having adoption equals more privacy, a bigger anonymity set. So that's a good case to make. He says it's more private than Pirate Chain and, Zcash, etc. Pretty cool, right? Um, let's see. Yeah, the Jeffro thing was interesting. I've got some. He's talking about Janus tax and stuff. Interesting, but kind of beyond me. All right, so this one's Woodseer gave a really good presentation on Havano. Um, Again, go check out that presentation on Monerotopia. Super key. But as of now, Havano is out, so you can use Havano. There's Rito Swap. I think they just changed their name from Havana Rito to Rito Swap. I'm not endorsing any of these. It's still relatively new, but people are having a lot of luck with Havana Rito. Buying and selling Monero for cash or for these other cryptos in a decentralized way, which is really cool. So it runs on Tor. You have Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Litecoin, USDT, and Monero, and precious metals as well. So if you want to transact precious metals for Monero, you can do it on Havana. Pretty sweet, right? Um, you do have to do a security deposit. It prevents spam. That's the reason for it. Although they're working on something interesting where if you want to avoid there being a security deposit, you can do password protected listings. So if somebody is interested in dealing with you, essentially you send them like an encrypted password. And that makes it so that there is some investment for the transaction. Somebody isn't just going over your listing and just spamming that they want to buy when they really don't have an intention to buy, and it causes a lot of friction in the network. So that's a pretty good idea. Um, so arbitrators never have access to your funds. That's a point that Woodsteer had stressed. They're just there for settling disputes. And one thing that I had asked him at the conference was, okay, well, what if somebody's doing a cash for Monero transaction? This is a very common question. Let's say you do a cash for Monero transaction and you send money in the mail to somebody for Monero and they say they didn't get it. Okay, and you get into this dispute. How do you resolve that dispute? Well, essentially what you do is you make sure you send the money with certified mail to the address that they say to you to send to them. And if you have certified mail that proves that your mail got there at, X time and it was marked received, then the arbitrator is probably going to rule in your favor. And then there is the question, of course, after that, well, what if the arbitrator conspires with the person who said they didn't get the money and therefore rips off the person who is trying to buy the Monero? Well, in that case, the argument was if the arbitrators, have bad judgments, then that will destroy the network, or that will destroy the arbitrator's reputation, and therefore people will seek out a different network, or new arbitrators will come to the fore because ultimately arbitrators will make their money off providing good judgments, and so there's an economic incentive for good judgments. That is the argument, right? So those are just a few interesting things. Um, Apparently, it's a fork of Bisq, and Bisq runs on Bitcoin fundamentally for the most part. Apparently, it has somewhat of a maximalist agenda. I haven't been on Bisq before, but apparently it doesn't list Bitcoin Cash. So Haveno has Bitcoin Cash. I guess Bisq does not. Kind of cool. Do do do. I guess they're making a mobile app for Havana, which is really sick. That'll make it a lot easier. And that was one of the core parts of the conference as well. It was sort of like, okay, well, how do we make it easy for people to use this stuff? Because Monero, after full chain membership proofs, is going to be at a point where it's just like pretty much indestructible. Um, at that point, it's about adoption. At that point, it is truly about getting this into the hands of people and making it really easy for them to use. And so, um, point of sale systems, uh, decentralized exchanges, getting other vendors to adopt this stuff. These were all, pretty heavy topics of conversation. And you can learn more about his presentation again at monerotopia.com or Monero Talk or whatever. By the way, shout out to Doug for putting this on. I haven't even said that yet. Sorry. I actually got to meet Doug in person and shake his hand. And, we had a relatively short conversation. Actually, we had a couple conversations. And he got me a really nice Monero t shirt, which is awesome. It's in the wash right now. I've been wearing it all over the place. I am a huge representative of Cake Wallet, of Monero, of Zano out in the public. I wear my stuff all the time. So, I'm the only person I've ever seen in the public wearing Monero gear, and it feels kind of cool. Feels kind of cool. Although at the same time, I never see people with Bitcoin gear. To tell you the truth, I do have one Bitcoin shirt that's like HODL. It just says HODL. I got it for Christmas one year. If only I HODLed the Bitcoin, right? uh, I swapped it hypothetically. I may or may not have swapped it hypothetically in Monero. But anyway, so there's a Tor workshop. I went to that. They were talking about Snowflake. They were talking about bridges and all this other stuff. Nothing I want to talk about right now. Oh yeah, so this was a very interesting presentation. Darknet Market by Roll, Dr. Roll. Go check out that presentation. Super key. The guy is basically a professor of darknet marketplaces, as based as that sounds. His job is to basically analyze darknet marketplace trends, whether it's on the actual dark web or on Telegram or whatever. This guy is the guy that studies black market activity in the digital world. And so he's a pretty reputable guy. And one thing that was pretty shocking that he said was most ransomware still paid in Bitcoin. And the adoption of Monero on darknet marketplaces is not what we think. Um, most of the listings on Telegram, most of the listings in the dark web marketplaces are still accepting both Monero and Bitcoin. In many cases, they're just accepting Bitcoin, but it's Monero and Bitcoin, and then you do have a few marketplaces that are propping up that accept just Monero. And so, um, you know, as much as we think that Monero is taking over the dark web marketplaces, which is one of our, core tenants in the super hyper mega bullish case, according to Dr. Roll, that is not happening at the rate that we think it is. And, I'm not a dark web bro. I just go off based what pretty much everyone else in the Monero community has been saying for the last few years. And we have done a number of videos over the last few years showing how certain marketplaces that are Bitcoin based are getting shut down and then new ones are cropping up that are just for Monero. That's what we have seen, but according to the guy who studies this stuff for a living, that may be something that we have overstated. Okay, so um, that was really educational. And most prominent markets, according to him, are still accepting both Bitcoin and Monero. And that's because the administrators have an incentive to optimize the amount of payment opportunities that people have and to collect those fees. So, even though it's more safe to use Monero, obviously, the admins want their bucks. So um, that was what he said. Okay. So I still think we're going to see more Monero only usage on the dark web marketplaces. But, you know, maybe these people just don't know about Monero. See, that's the thing. Somebody, I'm not going to say your name, but somebody had reached out to me and I shook your hand too at the conference. You're a really cool guy. And, you had wanted me to make a video specifically for the super hyper mega bullish case for Monero, like my explanation of that. And at the end of the day, we got the war on cash. We got uh, the regulatory capture of the transparent cryptocurrencies. We have full chain membership proof and the developments that are making Monero's privacy even better. We have, a global tax scheme, unrealized capital gains taxes coming into the mix. Um, you have price controls that are coming to different parts of the world, which means that you're going to have at some point shortages because of the price controls, which means that you have rationing, which means that you have a boom in the black markets. And our argument has been if Monero is continuing to gain traction in the black markets, i.e., the DNMs, then you would have a growing demand for Monero, and all these things kind of come together, right, for the super hyper mega bullish case. But the thing is, at the end of the day, people just don't know about Monero. That is the reality. People simply do not know about Monero. And I talk to people every day about this for the most part, and people simply do not know about it. And it's just an educational issue. And one thing that I will say I did not like by some of the presenters at the conference was the labeling of everyday people as like NPCs and idiots and people who just like are just inferior people is kind of like the message that they were trying to send. And I disagree with that. I really think that if you explain Monero to people, they will get it. It's not hard. What has made it kind of difficult is the psychological operations that we've had to deal with here in this space for the last, 5, 6 years by people saying that crypto's for digital gold purposes, for store value purposes. You have these meme coins which are being traded. You have the meme that, well, privacy is for criminals if you're using private cryptos and you're obviously doing something wrong, even though people still think that Bitcoin is private. I mean, you have so much crap in the space, it's unbelievable that you kind of have to wade through in order to get people to understand very basic precepts about what cryptocurrency is and what it's for. But people just don't know. At the end of the day, people just don't know. I explained Zano, for instance, to my uncle, and he was like, "I'm in. This sounds like a freaking awesome opportunity. I can't believe people are not looking at this. This sounds way better than Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever." And he's not like super well educated about cryptocurrency, but you explain to him the benefit of a cryptocurrency being private, and you add some other, cool things that the crypto is doing, which Zano is. They're doing private messaging systems, they're doing private tokens, you got private stablecoins coming, you've got all this stuff wrapped Bitcoin. I didn't even get into all that with him, but he was like, cool, this sounds like a really cool, innovative thing. I need to get into it. He's not an NPC. He's not an idiot. He's just a normal guy who's not somebody who has the patience or the wherewithal to sift through everything that we've sifted through. Because honestly, a lot of us have taken a lot of time to get to the bottom of the rabbit hole where we are. Not all of us started here. It takes some time to find your way at the core of cryptocurrency, which is Monero and the privacy coin space in general, but Monero in particular. Um, so let's like not have this just superiority complex to people. Let's kind of like level with them and just say, hey, like, I don't want you to be scammed. If you're interested in crypto, check out this one because this one actually says what it does. And I've been in crypto, like, have your credentials out there. I accept crypto for my business, say whatever you got to say, and just show them how to get a cake wallet, send a little Monero to them, show them how to use the gift pay feature, the bird pay features, and all the cool features that Cake Wallet has, and get them on board. Okay, this isn't complicated stuff actually. Like the thing I like about Monero is that it's simple. But everyone wants to make it more complicated because you make things complicated, you can make money and jip people. Okay, that's the space we're in, unfortunately, and that's what's going to cause a whole lot of this regulatory crackdown. But that's the way it is. Um, anyways, we had a presentation as well on the XMR Bazaar. And did I even finish my point? Sorry, I'm ranting. The XMR Bazaar, Um, you got Monero multi-sig built into the site. Um, so the buyer and the seller and the trusted mediator, you use a multi-sig. And if you don't know what XMR Bazaar is, let me see if I can pull it up over here. Uh, Look at this picture, dude. XMR Bazaar. Where is it? XMR Bazaar. All right, so yeah, you can buy all this stuff on the xmrbazaar.com. You can get my accounting services on xmrbazaar.com, although I don't think anyone's come through xmrbazaar.com. I'll show you this other website I like, Monerica.com, of course. And you've got yours truly like at the top. Isn't that freaking based? I love you, Riot. Thank you. I've actually had bros reach out to me lately, just two in the last few days, which is really awesome. People are selling a lot of Bitcoin, getting a lot of buku bucks for it. They want to know how to pay their taxes, and then get into Monero, and then they never call me again. Pay your taxes, okay? But yeah, you got all this stuff on here. You got counseling and therapy and design services, and I think this guy was at the conference. I didn't meet you though, right? Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. You got gift cards and prepaid cards, legal services. Okay, that's cool. Small claims lawyer, business lawyer. All right. Well, I got to reach out to you, Mr. Kleiman. We need to connect. But yeah, so you got the XMR Bazaar. Check this out. And that's what this presentation is for. Again, you can find it on Monerotopia. Um, this website over here where I think they're going to be posting the video. It's also going to be on Monero Talk. Let's see. The encrypted data streams go to servers. You can get boosted listings and advertising and support XMR Bazaar by paying for the boosted listings and advertising. They're coming out with trust badges for verified vendors. So if you develop a reputation on XMR Bazaar, you do get a nice badge, and then you get more business, presumably. So get on XMR Bazaar. We got to get people to adopt this stuff. All right, what else I got? I'm kind of trying to speed through this. Monero. Um, it's a payment gateway. That was a super cool presentation. It's like this guy and this girl working on this point of sale system for Monero called Nero. They've got an invoicing system. They've got a point of sale system, which is exactly what we need in this ecosystem right now. Let's see. And you can choose the amount of confirmation. See, that was something that was really interesting that I learned. You can choose the amount of confirmations for when a payment is made. So if you're not somebody who's too concerned about somebody reneging on their transaction, you can do zero conf and you can have the check mark go through that, hey, this is paid. If you're doing something online, you might as well have your maximum confirmations go through. And you can set that, okay? Or you could have half the number of full confirmations go through. At that point, when the confirmation gets to that point, then it's marked as paid and you're good to go, which is like really cool, right? Digilol.net. Okay, so that's where you can go to learn more about that. I will absolutely be using that for my own business because right now I use QuickBooks. And essentially, what I do when I send somebody an invoice is I put my Monero address there or my Zano alias at Zano CPA if you want to send me some Zano. But the alias system for Zano does make things pretty easy. You can just say your alias and people can easily send you Zano. However, for Monero, you got to put your entire address there, and both are a little iffy because I guess you could also put your QR code in there, but it'd be nice to have a designated Zano gateway so that people can easily just go into their wallet and then send you something through the system that links to an invoice, with which then ideally links to QuickBooks. Now, I don't know if this is going to link with accounting systems. I did talk with somebody from Edge Wallet about that at the conference. We had a great conversation. I think your name is Eric, so shout out to you. We talked about softwares that are currently in development that make it so that your crypto wallet can be linked up with your accounting software, and then transactions can automatically flow through your bank feed, quote unquote, to your account where you've got your crypto balance, and then you can categorize those transactions accordingly. It automatically figures your gains and losses for the incoming and outgoing transactions. Really cool stuff. So there's that coming on, and I intend to kind of put a little bit more focus into that and see what I can do about that, given I'm like the only Monero based accountant out here. It'd be cool if we had more people in this section of accounting. But hey, you know, we cornered the market, so that's kind of cool. Let's see. You can sponsor the project too. This digital Metro Narrow invoice point of sale system project. You can sponsor it, so reach out to them, give them some money. There is a great presentation by Tuxedo. Shouts out to you, Tuxedo. You're super cool. You talked about um, getting native Tor support for Cake Wallet. That's only on Android. Background sync, which was another really cool thing, because that's another user issue that some people ran into, is they had to wait for their wallet to sync before they can make payments. And that was a problem for some people. But Vic and the crew have been working on that, and you can essentially set up background sync if you have Android, and essentially it just syncs in real time whether you have the Cake Wallet open or not, which is very cool. So maybe I got to get an Android. And Graphene OS Pixel was advertised as being uh, ideal, the standard for security and the experience. There was a presentation on Cupcake. Look, I'm not going to get into that presentation. It was a great presentation. Go check it out. Tuxedo, really solid presentation on Cupcake, one of the new developments, Cake Wallet. And Zano is coming to Cake Wallet. So I guess one of the first, if not the first, Zano transaction on Cake Wallet happened. And it's like this really cool blue, nice user interface looking thing. I'm excited for it. Tor Eklund Law. I made a lot of notes on this one, but I kind of talked about it before. These are the lawyers who represented Roman Sterlingoff during the Bitcoin Fog case, and I highly recommend you go check out that presentation. One thing he said that is going to stick with me: anyone that uses a transparent blockchain is at risk. It's as simple as that. Anything you can, anything you do on a public blockchain can will be used against you. Okay, that's essentially the crux of this presentation. Apparently, Chainalysis is the industry leader for chain analytics out there, and I think we kind of knew that. You have CipherTrace, which is owned by Mastercard, but interestingly enough, they were trying to use somebody from CipherTrace as somebody who would be an expert witness on the behalf of Roman Sterlingoff to defend him and say, "Hey, look, you guys have a shoddy case." But Mastercard apparently prevented CipherTrace from having that individual represent this person in court at like the very last minute. So if that's not conspiratorial, I don't know what to tell you. But um, I guess Mastercard then dissolved CipherTrace. That's a new story I need to get into because that sounds kind of like a big deal. But chain analysis is, I guess, solidifying their market share. They're the industry leader, and they said if chain analysis or chain analysis, excuse me, says you have tainted coins, you're done. That's what they said. So don't mess with chain analysis. Is what they're saying. Use Monero. Amir Taki gave a great talk. It was like total 1776 energy. I loved it. I didn't make any notes. It was just sort of like, let's go. So he's working on like cool stuff with DarkFi though, like totally anonymous messaging, totally anonymous chats and stuff like that. I don't know all of what's going on with DarkFi. I didn't really catch that from the presentation, but essentially he's working on Lunar Punk, cryptocurrency stuff. Okay, so go check that out. Anyways, um, that's what I've got for the presentations that I went to. I didn't go to all the presentations, unfortunately. There were so many good ones, but I learned a lot. I really learned a lot. I came as a student wanting to come away with a better understanding of Monero. I came away with a better understanding of things that I know I can know, things I know I can't know, and the things that I think I could learn. And so I still am a student after, 4 or 5 years of being in this space, and um, it's a learning, it's a work in process. So um, one thing that really surprised me again was the caliber of person that I met. I mean, everybody was jacked. Everybody is like working. Everyone's got like IQs plus 140, great physiognomy, just a really stellar group of people. And it was a real pleasure and honor to meet just all of you. I think I met probably like 100 people at the conference. It was really, really awesome. I really enjoyed talking to Ravaga from the Zano team. We had a very long conversation about stuff with Zano, and I talked to the entire Zano crew, Combat Fire, Mr. Quib, shouts out to you, and everybody else there. It was like really cool meeting Andre, because obviously that guy's a legend in our space, and it was cool meeting some of the other vendors. It was cool, of course, meeting Doug, like I said before. I had a couple of cool buddies that tagged along with me. Shouts out to you, John. Shouts out to Body. It was cool meeting you. Really cool guy. Who else? Jeff was a cool dude. I skateboarded with the guy outside a bar. That was kind of tight. Some like digital nomad guy. Forgot your name though. Sorry. Let's see who else. I met Vic. For a very brief moment. So shouts out to Vic, legend in the space as well. I think I shook the hand of Seth for Privacy too. I'm trying to remember Sterling Lujan, who is this anarchist guy, super cool fella. Really happy to meet him. Um, Even though I'm not an anarchist, and I kind of left the presentation for that reason. It's like, oh, this ain't for me. I'm not an anarchist, but I did go have breakfast with him and a couple other guys, and just absolutely wonderful person, good heart, good spirit, coming out of that guy. Um, let's see who else. Relevant Peter McCormick. I sat down with you and your folks, and super friendly, super warm. It's an honor to meet you as well. Gosh, I met so many people. I'm not going to be able to name them all. Daniel from Pirate Chain. I did get to meet you too. You were really cool. Uh, Gosh, man, who else? So many people. Arctic Mind shook your hand. You were cool. Man, it's just so many people were there. So many awesome people. And it's just I can't wait to go next year. So if you guys haven't been to Monerotopia before, I highly recommend for next year. It's going to be the fourth one. I don't know where it's going to be, but I just know I'm going to be there. It was like super, super awesome, educational, and just to know the quality and caliber of the people in our space. It's just really comforting to know that you're here, you're in the good group of guys, and you know, great energy. So that's all I've got to say. We're just bumping up against an hour, so I feel like that was a pretty good time. And where's my computer at? I think I'm about to run out of juice. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's what I've got to say about Monerotopia. Best conference ever. Shouts out to Doug again for putting on the event, and more vids coming your way. All right. So, God bless. Have a great week, and see you on the next one.